The sky above the city was calm on that morning. People had gathered in wide numbers across the open plaza, where the landing platform had been prepared. It was not every day that an alien prince visited Earth. The news had spread for weeks. Schools spoke about it. Workplaces prepared for it. The government had told the public that this event would mark a new age of relations with the stars. Everyone expected to see great ships and armored soldiers. Everyone expected something far beyond ordinary life. At the center of the plaza, officials in neat uniforms stood ready. They held banners of welcome, and their faces were trained into polite smiles, though inside many of them were nervous. Soldiers in clean suits guarded the edges of the area. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, trying to see what was about to happen. Merchants had already begun selling small flags and glowing sticks, as if this was some festival. The crowd buzzed with excitement and fear. A deep hum filled the air. People raised their heads to the sky. From beyond the clouds came a great ship. Its form was wide like a bird of steel. Blue lights lined its edges, and its surface shone as if made of liquid metal. The ship moved slowly, but its presence was heavy and commanding. The hum of its engines grew stronger until the platform trembled beneath it. When the ship settled above the platform, beams of light extended downward, shaping a grand entrance. The crowd gasped. From within the light, figures appeared. Tall armored guards stepped first, their armor black and gold. Each carried a long weapon that seemed alive with energy. Their movements were precise, as if every step was measured and trained for this moment. Then came the prince. Toran was taller than any human. His frame was broad, and his robe of deep crimson flowed with every step. Across his shoulders rested a mantle that shimmered like starlight. His skin was a pale silver tone, and his eyes glowed faintly blue, giving him the look of something carved from ice. His presence alone made the plaza fall silent. Beside him walked his pet, and the crowd gasped louder than before. It was a dragon. Not like the ones from old fairy tales, but a living creature with scaled skin that glimmered under the sun. Its wings were folded close, each larger than a house roof. Its tail swept slowly across the platform as it walked, leaving faint scorch marks on the stone. The creature's eyes burned like amber fire. Heat rose from its nostrils with every breath. People at the edge of the platform stumbled back, some clutching their children closer. Toran placed one hand gently on the beast's neck, and the dragon lowered its head as if obeying. The prince's voice rang across the plaza. "I am Prince Toran of the Kale Dominion. I come with peace to your world. But hear me, this dragon is my companion, my blood, my honor. None shall touch it. None shall dare treat it as a creature for play. Those who try will face fire." His words echoed, carried by a device on his robe that translated his speech into the human tongue. The silence in the plaza stretched long. Then the officials clapped politely and the crowd joined, though their fear remained. Some people bowed. Some whispered to one another. Children stared in awe, their little hands reaching out as if they wanted to get closer to the dragon, only to be pulled back by nervous parents. Among the crowd stood a girl named Mira. She was not part of the officials or the soldiers. She was not carrying banners or flags. She had come simply because she wanted to see what everyone spoke about. Mira was young but sharp in mind. She was not easily frightened. Where many had taken steps back when the dragon appeared, she stayed where she was, her eyes following every detail of the scene. She noticed how the guards scanned the crowd, how their weapons pulsed faintly, how the dragon's wings twitched at the smallest sound. She also noticed the way the prince's eyes swept across the people. His gaze was heavy, as if he expected everyone to kneel. Mira did not kneel. She did not lower her eyes. She simply stood still, her gaze meeting the scene with calm. The ceremony continued. Officials spoke words of welcome, praising the strength of the Dominion and the honor of the prince. Toran responded with polite but firm words, making clear that his visit was not of weakness but of dominance. He reminded all who listened that his people ruled many worlds and that Earth must show respect if it wanted friendship. The dragon breathed once, sending a stream of smoke curling into the air. The crowd shivered as one. When the formal speeches ended, the prince and his guards prepared to move through the city. The dragon followed, its heavy steps shaking the ground. Soldiers kept the people at a safe distance, forming barriers so no one came close. Yet Mira slipped through the crowd until she was at the very front. She did not cross the line, but she stood where the prince and his dragon could see her clearly. As Toran passed, his gaze met hers. For the briefest moment, his steady march slowed. He noticed her eyes unshaken, unafraid. Every other human looked away or bent low. But she did not. Her calmness was unusual. His guards noticed as well, sharing looks but saying nothing. The dragon's head turned slightly. Its amber eyes landed on the girl. A low growl rumbled from its throat, not of anger but of curiosity. Mira did not flinch. She simply tilted her head, studying the creature as if it were no more dangerous than a large animal from the forests of Earth. The dragon exhaled, releasing heat into the air, but still she did not move back. Toran narrowed his eyes. He had given a warning to all. He had made clear that the dragon was untouchable. Yet here stood a human who looked upon it without fear. He found himself unsettled. He did not speak, but he remembered her face. As the procession continued, whispers spread through the crowd. People asked one another if they had seen the girl's courage. Some thought she was foolish. Some thought she was brave. No one knew what the prince thought, but many had seen his eyes pause on her, and that was enough to spark rumors. When the ship's entourage reached the grand hall prepared by Earth's leaders, the crowd slowly dispersed. Families returned to their homes, children still chattering about the dragon. Merchants counted their coins, satisfied with the day's business. Officials sighed in relief that the arrival had not turned into chaos. But Mira remained in the plaza long after most had left. She sat on a low stone bench watching the marks left by the dragon's tail. She thought of its eyes bright and alive. She thought of the prince tall and proud. She wondered why people trembled so much when facing those who acted like rulers. She wondered why fear held so much power over others. The day ended with the sun sinking behind the towers of the city. The plaza grew quiet again. Mira rose from the bench and walked home, her mind steady. She knew the story of the alien prince and his dragon was only beginning, and somehow she felt that she would be part of it. The city was restless after the arrival of the alien prince. Every street carried whispers about him and his dragon. Markets were filled with talk of the great ship that hovered above the platform. Children drew pictures of the dragon in their notebooks, while elders warned their families never to get close to the beast. Fear spread like smoke, thin but everywhere. News screens played the prince's speech again and again. His words about fire and punishment echoed through every home. The reporters called him proud, strong, and dangerous. They praised Earth's leaders for welcoming him, yet their voices carried the same hidden unease that filled the streets. Mira walked through the city with calm steps. She heard the talk, she saw the worried faces, but inside she felt steady. She remembered the way the prince had looked at her, the way his dragon's eyes had searched hers. She remembered how people had trembled, but she had not. The memory was sharp in her mind, and she carried it with quiet pride. At the Grand Hall, Prince Toran met with Earth's leaders. The room was wide, its walls lined with shining banners. Long tables stretched across the chamber, filled with food, gifts, and fine drink. Officials smiled with trained politeness, but their eyes often drifted toward the dragon that sat outside the hall. The creature rested with its wings folded, yet even in stillness it was a storm ready to rise. Inside, Toran spoke with a voice that carried power. He told the leaders of his empire, of the countless worlds under his rule, and of the strength his people commanded. He warned them again of disrespect and of the sacred bond he shared with his dragon. His guards stood silent behind him, their weapons glowing faintly as if reminding everyone of the weight behind his words. The leaders nodded, some out of respect, others out of fear. They promised trade, friendship, and loyalty. They gave fine gifts, jewels, art, and crafted machines. Toran accepted them with calm, though his eyes showed little care for such things. His pride was greater than treasures. Later he stepped outside to see his dragon. The crowd that had gathered at a distance shrank back as he appeared. The dragon lifted its head, greeting him with a low rumble. Toran stroked its neck, his silver hand glowing faintly against the creature's dark scales. As he did, he noticed movement near the edge of the crowd. Mira stood there once more, her face calm, her eyes fixed not on him but on the dragon. She did not tremble like the others. She did not turn away when the dragon's breath filled the air with heat. She only watched, steady as stone. Toran's brow tightened. He had seen her before. He had felt her stare among thousands. Now here she was again, unshaken. He turned and walked toward her, his guards stepping quickly at his side. The crowd gasped and stepped back, but Mira remained where she stood, The prince stopped before her. His voice was firm, his words translated by the device on his robe. Why do you stand without fear? Do you not hear my warning? Do you not understand the danger? Mira lifted her chin slightly. Her voice was steady and clear. I understand your warning. I hear your words. But fear is not my master. I choose to stand, the crowd murmured in shock. No one had spoken to the prince like that since his arrival. Torin's guards gripped their weapons, waiting for his signal. The dragon turned its head, staring at the girl with eyes of burning amber. Torin studied her for a long moment. He saw no shaking in her hands, no weakness in her voice. He had seen kings and warriors tremble before him, but not this young human. He stepped closer, his shadow falling across her. Fear keeps people alive, Torin said. Fear is wisdom. Without it, you invite death. You defy me, yet you do not bow. Do you think yourself stronger than my people? Stronger than fire itself? Mira shook her head slowly. I do not think I am stronger than fire. I do not think I am stronger than your people. But I know that fear makes chains and I do not wear them. Fear does not guide me. It only blinds me. I will not let it blind me. The crowd was silent. Every word carried across the plaza. Some stared at her with awe. Others whispered that she was foolish and reckless. The dragon let out a low growl, smoke curling from its nostrils. The sound made many people stumble back, but Mira did not move. Her eyes met the dragon's eyes, and for an instant there was a strange calm between them. Torin raised his hand, and the dragon grew still. His gaze did not leave Mira. His pride burned within him, but something else stirred as well. He could not name it yet, but he felt it. You speak boldly, he said. Too boldly for one so small. I should strike you down for such defiance, yet I find myself curious. What gives you this strength? What gives you this calm? Mira answered with simple words. Because I know that you and your dragon are alive like me. You breathe as I breathe. You walk as I walk. Your fire may burn me, but it cannot change what I am. That truth is enough. Toran's guards shifted uncomfortably. None dared speak, but their eyes flickered with unease. The prince himself stood silent, his thoughts heavy. He was not used to being answered in such a way. He was not used to hearing truth spoken without trembling. Finally, he stepped back. You are either wise or foolish, he said. Time will decide which. But know this, my warning remains. Touch the dragon and you will face death. He turned and walked away, his robe sweeping behind him. The dragon followed, though its eyes lingered on Mira as if it too wondered about her. The crowd slowly broke apart, speaking in hurried whispers. That night the story spread faster than fire. People told one another of the girl who had stood against the prince. Some called her brave. Some called her foolish. Some said she would not live long if she continued such defiance. But no one could deny that she had spoken without fear, and everyone remembered it. In his private chamber aboard the ship, Torin sat in silence. His dragon rested near, its body curled like a mountain of scales. He thought of Mira, of her steady eyes, of her words about fear and chains. He felt anger that she dared to challenge him, yet he also felt a strange respect. She was different from the others. He looked at his dragon, and the creature looked back at him with slow, burning eyes. It had not attacked her. It had not rejected her. It had only watched. Torin wondered why. For the first time in many years, he found himself unsettled. Across the city, Mira lay in her small room. She stared at the ceiling, her mind alive with thoughts. She did not know what the prince would do next. She did not know if the dragon would one day rise against her, but she felt no regret. She had spoken what she believed. She had chosen courage over fear, and that gave her peace. The night grew quiet, but the tension in the air remained. The challenge of fear had begun, and both the alien prince and the human girl knew that their paths were now bound together. The city awoke under the shadow of the alien ship. Its great frame hovered above the platform like a silent guardian, its lights glowing faintly against the early sun. Every morning, people looked up and whispered about it. Some said it was a promise of protection. Others said it was a threat. Whatever the truth, it was always there, heavy in the sky. Prince Torin spent much of his time in meetings with Earth's leaders. He demanded respect, asked endless questions about human armies, and studied the resources of the planet. His tone was always sharp, his pride like steel, yet even as he spoke of power and fire, his mind often returned to one memory, the girl who had stood before him without fear. Her face came back to him again and again. He remembered her calm voice, her steady eyes, her simple words about fear and chains. He could not explain why it troubled him, but it did. She was no warrior, no leader, yet she had faced him without bowing. His dragon had not resisted her presence either, and that unsettled him even more. Mira continued her life as normal. She worked in the small library, where she spent her days helping children and elders find books, yet people who passed by now looked at her differently. Some greeted her with respect, whispering about her courage. Others warned her to be careful, afraid the prince would punish her. She listened but kept her calm. She had not set out to challenge anyone. She had only spoken the truth she felt inside. One afternoon, Mira walked along the edge of the plaza where the dragon sometimes rested. A line of guards stood at their posts, tall and silent. Most people stayed far back, but Mira moved closer. She did not cross the barrier, yet she stood where she could see the dragon clearly. Its scales shimmered under the light, deep black with hints of gold. Its wings were folded, but each was so large it seemed they could cover the plaza in shadow. The air around it felt heavy with heat. The dragon's head lifted and its amber eyes locked on hers. A low sound rose from its throat, not loud enough to scare, but deep enough to be felt in the chest. Mira stood still, her gaze steady. She did not raise her hands or move closer. She only met its eyes. From the hall, Toran stepped out. He noticed where the dragon's attention had turned, and his own eyes followed. He saw her again. Mira, the human girl who refused to fear. He felt a sharp mix of anger and curiosity. He walked toward her, his guards forming a path. People nearby stepped back, whispering as they saw the prince moving with his heavy robe and silver glow. Mira stayed where she was, her feet planted firmly. When Toran reached the barrier, he studied her. "You again," he said, his voice firm. "Do you seek to test me? Do you seek to test my dragon?" Mira shook her head. "I seek nothing. I only came to look." Toran narrowed his eyes. "You risk much. My warning has not changed. This creature is not for human hands." "I heard your warning," Mira answered calmly. "But looking is not the same as touching. Eyes are not weapons." The crowd nearby gasped at her words. No one else dared speak to the prince so simply. But Toran only stared, his thoughts heavy. "Why do you continue to stand so boldly?" he asked. "Do you not understand who I am?" "I understand," Mira said. "You are a prince. You rule many worlds. You command armies. But none of that changes the truth in front of me. You are alive and your dragon is alive. I do not need to fear life." The dragon tilted its head slightly as if listening. Its great tail moved slowly across the stone, leaving faint marks. Toran felt something stir within him. He had been taught that fear was respect, that fear was strength. His empire lived by this truth. Yet this human girl denied it with her very presence. He could order his guards to strike her down, yet he did not. Something inside held him back. He raised a hand and the guard stepped aside. Toran looked into Mira's eyes and she did not look away. "You speak as if fear has no place," he said. "But fear is the fire that shapes strength. Without it, your people would be nothing," Mira answered softly but firmly. "Fear may shape chains, but courage breaks them. You speak of fire. Fire can destroy, but it can also light the dark. It depends on how it is used," the crowd murmured again. Some nodded in agreement. Others shook their heads in worry. The dragon let out a sudden breath of smoke and many people stumbled back. Mira did not. She remained steady, her eyes locked on the creature. The dragon lowered its head slightly, bringing its gaze closer to hers. For a moment, the plaza grew so quiet that even the wind seemed to pause. Toran felt the weight of the moment. His dragon, feared by all, was lowering itself to a human girl. He clenched his jaw, torn between anger and confusion. This was not how the world was meant to be. Finally, he stepped back and spoke with authority. "Remember my words. If you ever touch this dragon, you will face death. That will not change." Mira gave a single nod. "I understand." Toran turned sharply and walked away, his robe flowing behind him. The dragon raised its head once more and followed, but before it left, it looked at Mira one last time. That night, the city was alive with talk. The story spread quickly. They spoke of how the prince had confronted the girl again, how the dragon had bowed its head toward her, how she had spoken without fear. Some believed she carried hidden power. Others said she was foolish and would bring trouble to Earth. In his chamber aboard the ship, Toran sat in silence once more. He looked at the dragon, who rested calmly. He thought of Mira's words about fire and chains. He thought of the way his dragon had lowered its head. His pride told him to crush her defiance, but another voice, quiet and persistent, told him to listen. He did not like this conflict inside him, yet it grew stronger each day. Mira, in her small home, reflected as well. She knew she had drawn the prince's attention more than ever. She did not know what he would do next. Yet she felt no fear. She felt something different. She felt as if the dragon itself had understood her, if only for a moment. That thought gave her strength. The night deepened and the stars shone above the city. The alien ship hovered still, a silent shadow in the sky. The world waited, knowing that the story between the proud prince, his dragon, and the fearless human girl was far from over. The days after the second encounter grew tense across the city. The story of Mira and the dragon spread faster than any other tale. People repeated her words in the markets, in the schools, and even in quiet homes. Some said she was brave, others said she was reckless, but no one denied that she had caught the attention of the alien prince and his mighty beast. Prince Toran heard the whispers as well. His guards reported how the humans spoke of Mira's courage, how they admired her refusal to bow, how children drew her face beside the dragon in chalk on the streets. Each report made his pride burn hotter. His people ruled with fear. Fear was strength, fear was order, fear was law. Yet on this world, one young girl was turning fear into weakness. She was turning defiance into a story that spread like wildfire. Inside his chamber aboard the ship, Toran paced. His dragon lay nearby, its great eyes glowing softly in the dim light. The beast was calm, but Toran was not. He stopped and stared at his companion. "You lowered your head to her," he said quietly. "You, the beast that none dare touch," showed her respect. The dragon blinked slowly, exhaling warm smoke. It gave no answer in words, but Toran felt something in its silence. A bond as old as his blood tied him to the creature. He knew its thoughts were not empty. Somehow it had seen something in Mira that even he could not deny. The more he thought, the heavier his anger grew. Yet mixed with that anger was curiosity, a seed that would not die. He told himself that he must act, that he must restore the truth of fear before the humans forgot it. The chance came sooner than expected. A festival had been planned by the city to honor their alien guests. The leaders hoped it would strengthen ties and ease tension. Bright banners were hung across the plaza. Stalls filled the air with the smell of food. Music played from the corners, and children laughed as they ran with paper dragons painted in bright colors. But even in celebration, the people watched the skies, knowing the real dragon would appear. When Toran arrived with his guards and his beast, the music faltered. The plaza grew quiet. His presence carried weight, and the dragon's steps shook the ground as it followed. Smoke curled from its nostrils, a warning stronger than any word. The leaders greeted him with careful smiles, offering gifts once more. But Toran's eyes scanned the crowd, searching. And there she was. Mira stood among the people, plain and calm, her hands folded in front of her. Her eyes, as always, did not look away. Toran's jaw tightened. He raised his voice so all could hear. "You celebrate in honor of my presence, yet you forget my warning. You forget the power of fear. Today I will remind you." The crowd stilled. His words cut the air sharp as blades. Toran pointed toward Mira. "You, step forward." Gasps spread through the people. Some tried to hold Mira back, whispering that she should not anger him. But she stepped forward without hesitation. Her face calm, her steps steady. She walked until she stood only a short distance from the dragon, her eyes level with the prince. Toran's gaze was cold. "You have looked upon my beast without trembling. You have spoken to me without bowing. You have filled your people with thoughts that weaken fear. So I give you this challenge. Touch the dragon and prove your courage. If you are as fearless as they say, then step closer. If not, then let all see that fear is stronger than pride." The crowd gasped louder. Some cried out in protest, begging him not to force such a test. But no voice was louder than the silence that followed. All eyes turned to Mira. She looked at the dragon. Its eyes glowed like molten gold. Heat rolled from its body in waves. She could feel its breath, strong and steady. For a long moment she did not move. She only breathed, her heart calm. Then she stepped forward. The crowd cried out again, but she did not stop. The dragon's head lowered, watching her with sharp, unblinking eyes. Its tail swept across the stone, leaving fresh marks. Mira stopped when she stood directly before it. She reached out her hand. The moment stretched like eternity. The people held their breath. The guards gripped their weapons, ready for fire. Toran's own heart pounded, torn between hope that fear would return and the strange dread that it would not. Mira's hand touched the dragon's scales. No fire came. No roar split the sky. Instead, the dragon grew still, its chest rising and falling with slow calm. Its eyes softened and it let out a low sound, not of anger but of peace. The crowd erupted in shock. Some shouted in disbelief. Others cheered in wonder. Children laughed and pointed. The leaders looked pale, unable to understand what they had just seen. Mira kept her hand on the beast, her face calm. The dragon lowered its head further, pressing against her palm as if welcoming her touch. Toran stood frozen. His pride felt shattered, his laws broken. Yet deep inside, something else stirred, something he had never felt before. He saw not weakness in this moment, but strength of another kind. Still, his voice thundered across the plaza. Enough! The dragon lifted its head, stepping back at his command. Mira lowered her hand but did not bow. She only turned her gaze back to the prince, steady and unbroken. You risked death, Toran said, his voice sharp. Why did you do it? Mira answered simply. Because courage is not the absence of danger. Courage is the choice to face it. Your dragon understood this before you did. Her words spread across the plaza like fire through dry grass. People whispered, nodded, and looked at her with awe. Toran clenched his fists. His empire was built on fear. His crown was forged by fire. Yet here stood one human girl, tearing down that truth with nothing but steady eyes and calm words. He turned and left without another word, his guards following. The dragon moved after him but looked back once at Mira before it went. That night, the city did not sleep. They spoke of the girl who had touched the dragon and lived. They spoke of how the beast itself had accepted her. For the first time, the fear that had ruled their hearts since the prince arrived began to fade. They began to believe that strength could come from something greater than fear. In his chamber, Toran sat in silence. His dragon lay close, breathing slow. He stared at his hands, remembering the sight of Mira's touch upon the beast. His mind raged with pride and shame, but beneath it all he felt something new, a question he had never asked himself before. Could courage truly be stronger than fear? The day after the festival, the city changed. People no longer whispered with fear when the dragon's shadow passed above. Instead, they remembered Mira's calm hand resting on its scales. For the first time, they felt that the beast was not only a weapon of destruction, but also a creature that could understand trust. Children painted bright images of Mira standing beside the dragon. Old men told the story in the markets with wide smiles. Women in the homes spoke of her strength as if it were their own. Prince Toran watched this change with heavy silence. From the highest balcony of his ship, he looked down upon the city. He had come to rule with fear, to make this world kneel before his power. Yet instead of kneeling, they were rising. They were no longer afraid. They were believing in courage, and it all began with one girl. He could not sleep that night. His dragon lay beside him, its body curled like a mountain of scales and heat. The great beast breathed softly, calm and at peace. Toran placed his hand on its neck, feeling its pulse. He whispered, "You chose her over me. Why?" The dragon did not answer in words, but its calmness told him more than speech could. It was not betrayal. It was understanding. Toran remembered Mira's words. Courage is the choice to face danger. He had never thought of courage in that way. For him, strength came from fear. But the dragon had shown him something different. It had chosen peace over fire. It had chosen respect over destruction. And Mira had shown him that people could rise higher when they faced fear, not when they bowed to it. The next morning, Toran called for Mira. The guards were uneasy, thinking he might punish her, but he gave no order of harm. Instead, he commanded that she be brought to the ship. Mira walked through the towering halls of the vessel without hesitation. She saw walls lined with alien steel, strange lights glowing softly, and guards with weapons at every corner. Yet her face remained calm. When she entered the grand chamber, the dragon was waiting, its golden eyes bright. The prince stood beside it, his posture tall and proud, yet his expression was not the same as before. "Mira," he said, his voice steady. "Do you know what you have done?" she answered without fear. "I faced your dragon and I lived. I showed your people and mine that fear does not have to rule us." His eyes narrowed, but not with anger. "You have changed the way my people look at me. Some of my guards now whisper of your courage. Even my dragon listens to you. Tell me why it chose you." Mira shook her head. "It did not choose me. It only saw that I did not look at it with hate. Fear makes us blind, but trust allows us to see. Your dragon saw trust in me. Her words struck deep. Toran turned his gaze to the dragon. The beast lowered its head slowly as if agreeing. For a long time, silence filled the chamber. At last, Toran spoke again. You believe courage is stronger than fear. If I accept this, then everything I was taught is a lie. My crown, my throne, my empire all built on fear would mean nothing. Mira stepped closer. Her voice was soft but firm. Then build something new. Build an empire that grows not because people tremble, but because they stand. Strength is not lost when you give others courage. Strength is multiplied. The dragon let out a deep sound like a rumble of approval. Toran felt his heart pound. He had lived his whole life in the shadow of fear, believing it was the only path to power. Now one human girl and his own beast were showing him another path. He dismissed the guards and spoke only to her. If I change, my rivals will see me as weak. They will challenge me. They will strike. Mira looked at him with calm eyes. Then face them with courage. Show them that fear is no longer your weapon. Show them that strength is not in fire but in unity. If you lead with fear, you will always be alone. If you lead with courage, you will never stand alone. Her words echoed in his heart long after she left the chamber. Days passed, and Toran tested this new idea. Instead of commanding the people of the city with threats, he called them together. He asked for their voices, their thoughts, their needs. The people were surprised, unsure if this was a trap, but slowly they began to speak. For the first time, they saw a ruler who listened. For the first time, Toran saw the power of trust. The dragon became a symbol of that change. Instead of flying above the city to spread fear, it flew alongside Mira during gatherings. Its presence no longer a shadow, but a reminder of strength that could protect instead of destroy. Children no longer hid when it appeared. They waved. They smiled. Some even laughed. The empire beyond the stars soon heard of this shift. Rival princes sent messages, mocking Toran for abandoning fear. Some threatened war. Some promised rebellion. But Toran did not waver. He had tasted a new kind of strength, and he would not return to the old ways. Mira stood by his side when the first challenge arrived. Another prince came with ships demanding Toran's surrender. The people of the city gathered, waiting to see what their ruler would do. Toran did not roar with threats as he once might have. Instead, he spoke calmly, his dragon at his side, Mira beside him. This world is mine, he said, his voice carrying across the sky. Not because you fear me, but because it stands with me. I rule not with chains, but with courage. If you would test this, then face us. But know this courage cannot be broken. The rival prince hesitated. His spies had told him of Mira, of the girl who touched the dragon and lived. His soldiers had whispered of the people who no longer bowed in terror but stood proudly. He saw that Toran was not alone. He saw that the dragon itself seemed stronger with this bond. Fear could break walls, but courage could build mountains. He withdrew without battle. From that day on, Toran's name began to change. No longer was he called the Prince of Fear. Now whispers called him the Prince of Courage. His empire slowly shifted, one world at a time. Some resisted, some challenged, but more and more began to see that courage was greater than fear. Mira returned often to the city, walking among her people. They greeted her with joy, not as a warrior, but as a symbol of hope. She reminded them that their courage was their strength. And though she lived simply, she had become the heart of a story that spread across stars. The dragon became a legend of its own. It no longer roared to strike fear. Instead, it roared to remind all that true power was not in making others tremble, but in lifting them higher. It became known as the guardian of courage. Years passed and the city grew. Where once banners of fear had hung, new banners rose bright with symbols of unity. Children studied not just weapons but knowledge. Farmers grew crops in peace. Leaders spoke with their people, not above them. And through it all, Mira remained unchanged. Calm eyes, steady heart, soft voice. She never sought power, yet power followed her. She never sought fame, yet her name became a song. She was the girl who faced the dragon and proved that humanity was not weak but strong. Prince Toran never forgot her words. He carried them like a shield through every trial. Courage is the choice to face danger. It guided him in every battle, in every council, in every challenge, and in time it shaped him into more than a prince. It shaped him into a leader who no longer stood alone. The empire that once ruled with fear became something greater. Worlds that had once trembled now stood together. And though many challenges still came, they were met not with chains but with courage. In the end, Mira's story became more than legend. It became a truth carried in the hearts of all who heard it, a truth simple but eternal. Fear divides, but courage unites. And so, under the light of countless stars, a new dawn rose not only for the city, not only for one world, but for all who dared to believe in the strength of humanity.